In this video, I'm going to be showing you step by step how to create a fully responsive header navigation menu for any website at all. And as you can see from the hero section, the header is going to be sticky and it's also going to be transparent. Alright, so basically this is not just the regular type of navigation menu. What you can see is if I should click on this toggle button to open up the navigation, as you can see it slides in from the top to the bottom. And one thing I wanted to observe is in most websites, when you click on a link, it's going to stay, the navigation is still going to be there. It will take you to the link, but it's going to be there until you manually click this close button to take it off. But in our own case, it's not going to be like that, because if you click on, for instance, this breeds link, as you can see, the navigation is going to disappear, and then it's going to bring us to the particular section that we clicked on. All right, and also if you observe right here, the header is transparent, but if I scroll down, as you can see, there is this white background and then a box shadow underneath it, just a little, so it separates it from the other page so everything don't overlap anyhow. And also you're going to observe that if I scroll down, if I keep scrolling down, once I get to the nutrition section, as you can see, this nutrition becomes active, and for the active state we have a plain white and then this red line underneath it, and also the font is a bit bolder than the regular one. So if I hover over this, you can see the color changes from this gray to white, but the active link is going to be having the same white color, but this line underneath it. So if I scroll to this breed section right now, as you can see, the breed section is active, and also the contact section as well. And also if I click on them, they take me to the section and then they become active automatically. All right, so in this episode, I'm also going to be showing you another way to toggle this on and off. Instead of making it come from the top, it's going to come from the left or from the right, something like this. And finally, I'm going to be showing you how to make one of the link a button, so you can just style that to become a button. And in case you want to have a button among the links right here, so maybe for instance the contact, you want it to be a button, I will show you how to style that as well. And yeah, so basically you can make your active link anyhow you want. So this is the mobile version, this is the tablet version, and if I move to the desktop version, as you can see, the design is different entirely. So right here we have a circle and everything here works as expected as well. And also you can see that the background changed to white, and there is this box shadow underneath here as well. So also if you style the button, it's also going to reflect on the desktop version as well. And I'm going to show you how you can do all this if you stick to the end of this video, because that part is going to be at the very end. Alright guys, this video is going to be completely explanatory. I'm going to explain everything in detail so you understand it and you can make your own for any website at all. So if this sounds like what you really want, stick to the end. And if you like this video, please give a thumbs up, and also comment down below to tell me what you learned about it, and if there's something I can do to improve, and what other content do you want me to upload next. And also you have to subscribe and stay tuned for the content that I'll be uploading recently. Alright guys, I'll see you in the coding section, so code along with me in this section. Thank you. So I created a folder. In this folder, I have my assets folder and also the index.html folder. And in this assets folder, I have the CSS folder and the JS folder. And of course, in the CSS folder, we have our styles as CSS. And in the JS folder, I have the main.js. And I've gone ahead to open this folder in my code editor, which is Visual Studio Code, as you can see on the screen right now. All right. So in the index.html file, I want to make an exclamation mark and then hit tab, so that will generate the boilerplate for me. Then I'm going to link the CSS. So what we can do is say link and then select the CSS. So right here in the href, I'm going to select the folder where it is, just like that. And I always like to leave comments, so CSS link, just like that. Next, I'm going to link the JavaScript as well. So I'm going to say script dot source, and then I'll link it right here. All right. So the next thing I want us to grab is for the icon, we're going to be using box icons. So for that, I'm going to comment out box icons. And then I'll head to my browser. I'm using Mozilla Firefox. And then I'll search for boxicons.com. Once that opens up, I'm going to click on the GitHub right here. So it opens in another tab. And then I'm going to scroll all the way down. So where it says usage, I'm going to be using NavBar CSS, but I'm going to be using this link instead. So I'll copy this into the head tag as they instructed right here. So I'll go back and then paste this down here. So now we are ready to use the box icons. So we can use them however we place any of the icons right here. Okay, so with that, I'm going to going to the body tag, and right here, since there is a tag for header, so we're just going to make use of that instead of making use of a div. So but what we can do is also give this header a class of header and also an ID of header. Okay, so the reason for this is just so we could target, the reason for the ID is so we could target it in JavaScript. That is if we need it though. But for the class, just for us to be able to style it, because I really don't like using this to style. So I like using a class or ID to style as well. All right. So once we get this, the next thing we want to do is our nav, of course. So we'll be using a nav tag, and for that we'll have a class of nav as well, and then a class of container, which we are going to be creating in the CSS. So the container is going to be a reusable class that we'll be using all through the sections. So, but we are going to set that class in our CSS, so how we want it to be. So next, after this nav, we are going to have our logo. So right here, you could, if you have an image as your logo, you could just do your image and then link it to the right file. But what I want to do here is use an A tag, and then I'm just going to call it logo. So for the href, I'm just going to put this hash there because it's going nowhere, and then I'm going to write my name as the logo right there. So once we have the logo, inside the same nav tag, we are going to create a div, and this div is going to hold a class of main nav. And then after this class, we're also going to have an ID of main dash nav, because we're going to be using this ID in JavaScript. So next, once we have that, now we need our list item. So we're going to be using the list item for the links. So what I can do is make a UL, and then I want to give this a class of nav list. So we are using reasonable words here, not just using a random letter like L or NL or something. So you want to make sure what you use, someone else can read it and understand what it is. So inside this nav list, we're going to have a bunch of LIs, and in those LIs we'll have an A tag inside of them. So the LI is going to have a class of nav item. Now inside the LI, like I said, we're going to have an A. So I'm going to be using this shortcuts, which is a greater than sign, and then A, and the A is also going to have a class of nav link, because of course this is the main link. So right here I'm going to target the home. So for the href, what you want to do is hashtag home, because in the home section we are going to have an ID of home, so that when we click on this home button right here, it's going to bring us to the very beginning of the page, which is the home section. So that is why we are having this hashtag home right here. So the next thing we're going to do is duplicate this a couple times, and So I'm going to hold my Alt and Shift key on Windows. So once I hold that, then I'm going to click on the down arrow key. As you can see, it is duplicating it just like so. So the next thing we want to do is change the href link and then the navigation name itself. So for this, I'm going to call this nutrition, and then right here I'm going to change to nutrition as well. So the next one is going to be breed with the S, and here I'm also going to say breed. Then the last one is going to be our contact, but keep in mind you can have as much as you want. So here is also going to be contact, like so. You could also make one of this link a button. All you need to do is just give another class right here, or change this class entirely, so you could use that class to style the button however you want, and it's going to work just as every other link on the page. So in case you want a button, maybe this contact, you want it to be a button, you could do that. And if there's enough time, I might just show you that at the end of this tutorial, but let's get going first. So after the last li, just before the closing ul tag, I'm going to have a div, and the div is going to have a class of navClose. So this navClose, we're also going to have an id of navClose, so we could also target that id in our JavaScript. And just so you know, we could also use a class to target something in our JavaScript, but I just like to make use of IDs, as you've seen. All right, so for the close, we are going to use an icon, and that's why I'm going to come back to the box icon. I'm just going to type the letter X, and yeah, this is the one we need right here. So I'll click on it, and I want to click on the font, not the web components. We want the font. So if I click on this font, and then I just click inside this box, anywhere inside this box, as you can see, we have copied right there. So if I come back, all I need to do is paste that right here with Ctrl V or Command V on Mac. So once I paste that in, if I should save this, Ctrl S, and then go live, because I have the live server extension installed on my VS Code. So if I go live, as you can see, we have all this right here. But then I want to start with the mobile first, because I always like starting with mobile first in everything that I do. Any website, any landing page, anything at all, I start with the mobile first, except if I'm designing on Figma, because the ideas and everything comes basically from the desktop version, then you scale it down to the mobile version. But when creating it in HTML, CSS, the main code, I suggest to start from the mobile view and then you scale it up to the desktop version. That way it is much more easier. In my opinion though, I'm not saying you should do that, but that's what I think. Alright, so there we have all our links, our logo, and then our close button. So the next thing we're going to do, outside of this entire main nav, this one right here, outside of this main nav, that's where we are going to have our nav open. So the link the icon we're going to click to open our nav on mobile precisely. So that's what we're going to have here, and I forgot the dots right here. So nav open, and this is also going to have, of course, an ID of nav open, just like so. And then for the icon, I'm going to come back. I want to use the grid. So if I search for grid, I will be using this one right here. So by default, the font is already selected because we've used this box icon page before, so it automatically knows what we selected last. So the font is selected. All you need to do is just click on this box to copy your code. So next, I'm going to go back and paste that right here. And now if I save and come back, as you can see, it's already refreshing because of the live server that we have there. So now, right now, you can see this icon here. So the next thing we're going to do, we are finally done actually with the the header section. So this is all we need for the header section. The next thing we're going to do is just to style this. So what I can do is come back to my styles, but first I need to style some two things. The first one is we need our font. So for the font, I'm going to come back here, and then I'm going to come open another tab in my browser, and I want to search for the fonts.google.com, as you can see right here. So once it opens up, what I can do is come here and search for the fonts I want, and in my case I'm going to be using the Poppins fonts. So for this, if I click on it, then I can select the weight that I want for this. So what I need is basically the 400, the 500, 600, and then the 700. I really don't need all this, but just to be safe, so I'll copy all those, and now I can see the selected weight right here and the selected font as well. So in order to use this, I could either use this, copy all this code and put them in my head tag in the HTML file, but instead I want to use the CSS instead. So I'm going to click on import and copy this code without the style tag. So I'm just going to copy that and come back here and paste this right there. So that is all for the or that is almost all for the font actually. So the next thing I want to do here is give a general styling, and for that we use the star sign or asterisk or whatever you want to call it. So what I'm going to do is set the margin to 0, and then set the padding as well to 0, because we don't want margin and padding for all our page, for all the page right here. And so next I'm going to set the box sizing to border box. Trust me, you want to set your box sizing to border box in all your web page. So the next one right here is going to be the HTML, and for the HTML, what we want to do is make the scroll behavior to be smooth, and then once that is out of the way, we want the body as well. So for this body, we're going to come back to our fonts.google. So what I want to get is, I'm going to scroll down here and I want to copy all this right here. So if I select all this and click my Command C or Control C on Windows, and then if I click on paste right here, so as you can see, we already have the font family to be set to Poppins right here. So next I want to give a margin of 3 rem to the top, 0 to the right, 0 to the bottom, and 0 to the left. So this 3 rem to the top is basically the amount of height we are also going to be needing for the nav menu. So we're going to be setting our nav menu height to this exact height right here, this exact size right here. But then we want our font size. So for me, I don't really like using direct 16 pixel or 1 rem for my mobile versions. What I like to do is use something a bit lower, because I think 1 rem or 16 pixel is always too much for a mobile version. So 0.938 rem is always what I use. And then once that is out of the way, I can set my A tag. So for all the A's, first let me show you this. We don't need this font anymore, so I'm just going to close that. We actually don't need this box icon too anymore, so I'm going to close that as well. And this is the original final version right here, so I'm going to leave that open and come back. So basically for the A tag, as you can see, we have all these tag that has that we created with the A, the anchor link. They all have this line, this weird line underneath them, as you can see right there. So there are lines everywhere. So what I can do is if I should come here now and make the text decoration to be set to none like this, and what I want to do also is, let me comment out all this, or let me just comment out this alone. So I'll show you what this does as well. So I'm going to comment this out, and now I've saved this A tag, the body and everything. I've saved it. So as you can see right here, those lines disappeared immediately, and we have a 3 rem height right here, 3 rem margin to our body right here from top to bottom. So next, now I'm going to show you what I mean by this star right here. So as you can see right here, there are spaces all over this place. So but if I should save this now, by default it takes away the margin, the padding on anything at all. Anything, it takes away the margin and the padding. That's why we set them to 0, so everything is aligned properly right here. So now we can work in peace. All right, so the next one I want to style as well is the list. So because as you can see right here, if I should comment this out one more time and save, all these bullet points that you see here, we don't need them. So for us to be able to get rid of those, let me still leave this comment out. So for us to get rid of those, we are going to target our UL, and we're going to set the list style to none. So once we set that to none and save, now if I come back, we don't see those bullet points anymore. So now I'm going to uncomment out all this again. All right, so this is perfect. All right, so now it's time to set our reusable classes. So for that, I'm going to make a comment and call this reusable CSS classes, and then I'm going to comment this out. So then what I want to target is a section. This section is what we're going to be using for all our sections. And yeah, basically the sections are this, I see right here. This part right here right now is the home section, or you can call it the hero section. And then this is the nutrition section. This is the breeds section and the contact section. So as you can see, the contact section is activated, the breeds is activated because we're in the breed section right now. As I keep scrolling down, you can see them change, and also if I click, you can see them go to their sections. So for these sections, we are going to be using, even though those sections are empty, it's just because we are not targeting the body right now. What we need, the essence of this tutorial, is the header navigation menu section. All right, so back here for the section, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be adding padding to the top. It's going to be 4.5 rem, and then to the left and right we need nothing there, so we're going to set that to 0, and then the bottom is going to be 2 rem each. So once that is out of the way, there's another CSS class that we're going to be using, and it's called the section title. So basically the section title is all this that you see: nutrition, the breeds, the contacts. You can see they all have the same styling and the same font size. So for that, we're going to be setting a font size of 1.5 rem, and then we're going to give a text align to the center because everything is centralized. Then we're going to have a margin bottom of 1.5 rem on all. Basically we don't need this. I wanted to add some content before, but I decided to let that be, so we don't need this margin bottom. Okay, let's just leave it and move on. So the font size, at least, is going to give us more room, so let's leave that in. So the font weight, rather, we're going to set that to 600 on this mobile version. All right, so once that is out of the way, the next thing we want to do for our reusable classes is just to target all the content that we're going to be having, but we're going to do this later. So what I can do right now is target the layout. So for the layout, all we need, I'm just going to comment out first. So for this layout, this is where we are going to style our container. So like I said earlier, the container is what we're going to be using for all our classes, for all our sections rather. So this container is going to have a maximum width of 968 pixels. It's also going to have a margin left of 1.5 rem and also a margin right of 1.5 rem, just like that. And this is all we need for this right here. So now this is time for us to style our header section. So for the header section, I'm going to make a comment as well and call this header section, just like so. And now for this section, I'm going to target the header. For the header, I'm going to have a width set to 100%. The Z index is going to be in a high value, so I'm just going to put 999 there. The background is going to be transparent. Of course, we want it to be transparent. The position, we're going to set that to fixed. It has to be fixed because we don't want it to move at all. Then the top, we're going to make that 0, and then the left also 0. Then we need a transition all to this, and we want to set that to 0.3 seconds. So basically this transition, let me just show you. This transition is what we have once we start scrolling down like this. As you can see, this the background, the white background comes up nicely. It doesn't come up rough. Let me just show you in this finished version. Let me quickly show you what I mean. So if I should take off this transition, okay, let me leave it first. I will set, let me set this color, the background color, let me set that to, for instance, let's say red instead of that white. So if I save that and now I scroll, as you can see, it comes in nicely because of the 0.3 seconds animation that I have there. But what happens if I take off that animation? So right now, if I comment out the animation on the finished version, not our main file, so if I keep scrolling, as you can see, it just jumps in and out like so. So that is why we are actually using that transition 0.3 seconds for this right here. So you get the idea, right? All right, so moving forward, once we're done with this header class, we're going to target the nav class as well. So for this nav class, what I need is the height. So like I said earlier, the reason why we gave the body, this body imagine top of 3 rem is because we're going to be using that 3 rem. Because right now, let me comment this out and save. If I come back to our website and the original version, as you can see, because we already set this to a fixed position, so the fixed position automatically takes it off the page and make it more like an absolute stuff, where since we set the top to 0, going to stick to the very top of the page. So now we are going to be using that 3 rem height for this right here. So that's why we set this to 3 rem, like so. So the next thing I want to do, and also as you can see, the container is already taking effect right here, because if you remember, in our index.html, we have on this nav menu, this nav right here, we have the class of container, and right now we already set the container to have margin left of 1.5 rem and also margin right of 1.5 rem. So as you can see from the left right here, there is this nice space right now. Okay, so moving forward, for this nav, after the height, we are going to have a display of flex, just like so, and we're going to justify the content to space between, and then align items to center. So basically what we just did now is split this into 3. So if I take you back to the index.html, as you can see right here, this is the nav. So we put a display flex on this. So what that's going to do is going to take this logo to the very top left corner, and then this main nav right here is going to put all this to the center, and then this nav open, because this is still inside the nav style. So this open nav icon is also going to be at the top right corner. So that is why we have this right here. Alright, so back to the style.css. What we need to target next is of course our logo, because we're going to be working the way everything is right here from top left to the right, just like that. So for this, I'm going to set the color to dark color, and then I'm going to set the font weight to about 500. So the transition is also going to be 0.3 seconds, just like so. And if I save this and come back, this is what we get. So since our nav open is also going to be the same color, I'm just going to add that right here. So it's going to be nav open, just like that. So we have same color for both. If I should change this to, let's say, probably a red color, I don't know why it keeps doing this. Okay, so if I come here and select this color and hit save, as you can see, both color change. Because it's dark, we can't really see it. So let me make a light version of the red. As you can see, we have the same color on both right there. Alright, so I'm going to set that back to our dark color. Okay, so after that, the next thing we want to target is when we hover on the logo and on the nav icon or the nav open icon, we want the color to change, and that is why we gave this a transition of 3 seconds. So what I can do is say logo and then hover like so, and also give a comma and nav open and then hover like so. So now if I open this up, I just need to add color and set it to my color that I have here, which is CE070, CE0F0F rather, not 0707. So 0F0F, as you can see right here. So if I hit save and then I go back to the site, now if I hover over the Gabriel, as you can see, the color changes, and likewise this nav open as well. So but then the size of the nav open is too small, so I need to increase that because I don't like how it is. So what I can do is target the nav open, and then I can set the font size, because if you remember in our box icon, I already closed the tab, I would have showed you, but we selected the font link, not the other stuff that was there. So now we can target this with font size, which is really cool. So I'm going to set this to 1.2 rem, and then the cursor is going to be pointer. So if I save and come back, now as you can see, the cursor is pointer and the font, the icon is a bit bigger than it was before. Alright, so this is time for us to style this part right here, which is the main thing we've been waiting for, this part right here. So we're going to be doing all this right now. Alright, so for that, I'm going to set a media query, because we want this to be for the mobile version and probably the tablet version as well. So nothing more than that. We don't want it to extend to the desktop version. So that's why we're going to be setting a max width of 767 pixel, just like so. So the maximum width is 767, and then for this I'm going to target the main nav. Of course, you remember we have this main nav right here, this main nav that is housing all the UL and the LIs right here. So for the main nav, we also want a position fixed on that, and then the top is going to be 0 for now, and the left is also going to be 0. Then what we can do is give the width 100% width, like so, And then the margin, we're going to set that to 0 and auto. Okay, we really don't need this because the width is set to 100, so it's going to be basically in the center. So let's give a padding of 3.5 rem to the top, 0 to left and right, and 1.5 rem to the bottom, just like so. And then we want to align all the text to the center. We want the background set to black, like so. And yeah, the transition, we want the transition to be 0.4 seconds. And then we're going to give this a box shadow, and that's going to be 004 pixel. And then we'll have an RGBA, then 0 right here, 0, and right here we're going to have 0.1, just like that. Then the Z index, of course, needs to be high again. Z index, just like that. So now if I save and come to our file, as you can see right here, this is what we have. So let's see how we can make this work really better. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is to target the nav item. So let me show you the nav item in our index first. So as you can see, the nav item is basically the LIs right here. So all these LIs, we want to give them, we want to give all the LIs, which is the nav item, all we need to give them is a margin bottom of 1.5 rem, so that right now you can see they have this space in between them, just like so, which is really good. So for after that, we'll style the nav link. So the nav link are the direct link, which is the A tag, the anchor link itself. So the direct link is the A inside the LI. So that is what we want to style right now. So for the nav link, we want to give that a font size of 1.3 rem. Then the color, this is just my preference, so the font size could change, depends on what you want. So for me, I want it to be a bit big, so I'm going to be using this 1.3 rem. And then for the color, I'm not going to make a white color. So what I can do is give this A5 color, and basically this color is kind of dark white color or something. I don't know how to pronounce, like more like a gray or something. So but for the font weight, I want that to be 400 right now, and then the transition is going to be 0.3 seconds as well. So now I'm going to target the nav link again, but this time the hover effect. So when you hover over it, what should happen? So first I want to set the color now to plain white. So I want the color to be plain white once you hover over it, and then I want the font weight as well to change from 400, as you can see right here, to 500. So now if I close this and I go back to our site, you can see the color right now, but if I hover over it, as you can see, it becomes white, and it becomes the font weight increases again by 100%, as you can see. All right, so this is looking cool and it's coming in place. So now what we can do is okay, so the next thing we can do, as you can see, we can't even see our nav close button right here. So but if I come now, and you know we have a class of nav close on the close button. So if I come here and give this a color of white, like so, as you can see, we have that right here, but we don't need it right here. We want it to be somewhere around here. So for that, we are going to set a position and make the position absolute. We don't want that to be fixed because I want it to disappear with this black background anytime we close this background. So for that, we're going to be using absolute, and I want the top to be set to 0.4 rem, like so, and then the right is going to be 1 point, let's do 115 rem, like so. And then the color, we're going to set the color. Oh, we already have the color. So the font size, now we want the font size to be 1.7 rem, and then the cursor is going to be set to pointer, just like that. All right, so if I save this now and I come back, as you can see, we have a much bigger close button on the top right corner right here. So now we're done with this CSS part for now. We're going to come back to the CSS later, but now we need to figure out a way to make this toggle on and off. So what I can do is come back to the main.js right here, and in this main.js, basically what we want right here is to make some kind of events, so that when we click on first, so that when we click on the nav open, it opens the navigation, and when we click on the X to close it, it also closes that navigation menu. So but first, what we can do is also to get this navigation out of the way. So for that, I'm going to be setting the top to -100%, just like this. So now if I save it and we go back, we can't see that anymore. So let's figure out a way to toggle this so that we can show this menu when we click on that button. All right, so what I want to do is create a variable, say const nav menu is going to be equals to document dot get element by id. If you remember, we have our id and it was main nav. So this main nav is the id that we have right here, as you can see, this one right here. So after the main nav, we're going to have another one, and this is going to be a nav open. So for the nav open, we need the nav open right here, open. So this is our nav open, and then lastly we need the nav close, and right here set that to close. So now we have all our variables right here. So the next thing I want to do is to make the nav open. So we're going to add an event listener on this, and what we want to listen for is the click event. So I'm going to say click, because when someone click on it, we want something to happen, right? So now I'm going to open this up, and now what I want to say is when I click on this nav open, I want this nav menu to have a class, and that class is going to be, so how we said that is class list.add. So we want to add this show menu class. Of course, we want to put that in a string, so we're going to set that to show menu. So now if I hit save and I come back to the site and click on this, well, nothing happens, because what we just did is add a class whenever we click on this nav open. So we want the nav open to add this class of show menu. But if you think very well, we've never created any CSS class or HTML class with this show menu, so we don't have the show menu. The show menu doesn't exist, so it can't work. That means this nav open can't work because the show menu doesn't exist. We just added it here. So in order for us to make it work, what we can do is come back. So but if you look right here in the main nav, this top right now is set to -100%. So this -100% basically took the whole menu out of the website, out of the page entirely. So for us to bring it back, we're going to now set our show menu. So the show menu class like this. Now we're going to add a top, and we'll set the top to 0. So the top, set it to 0. And now if I save this and go back to our website, as you can see right now, we already have it in. Let me see if I can refresh this. So now if I click on this, as you can see, this animates in nicely. Let me refresh again and click on this. As you can see, it animates in nicely. So now let's figure out a way to do that. When we click on this X right here, it's going to close this navigation. That's going to reverse the effect that we see right now. The sliding in is going to slide back up. All right, so for us to do that, it is very easy. So all you need to do is copy this, just Command C or Control C, copy and paste it here. So what you want to do is just change this open to close. So you know we have nav open, and we've just used that here. So now we want this nav close right here. And as you can see, this nav menu, we've already used it inside here and inside here. So I wanted to think about this. If when we click on the nav open, we want to show this menu, that's why we add this ad here. So now if we want to close this, we can't leave this ad here because this ad is to show the menu. So instead, what we want is to remove this menu. So on the close, we're going to remove the menu. So now if I save this and come back, now if I click on this, it opens up, and if I click on this, as you can see, it closes just like that. And there you already have a beautiful nav menu that is 100% functional, or yeah, maybe 50% functional, because we haven't done anything to this yet. So the next thing we are going to be looking at is how to make an active state right here. So as you can see, everything right here is has the normal color that we have on the one we are making right now, as you can see. But this home page by default has this white version, and then the width is already set to 500, and there is this red border underneath it just to indicate that it is active. And it's not just for the home section alone. If I scroll all the way up to this nutrition right here, as you can see, the nutrition as well, the animation, the effect on this home moved from the home to the nutrition, as you can see right there. And if I keep scrolling again, it moves to the breadth, and likewise the contact as well. So for us to do this, we're going to be using JavaScript and CSS actually. So first, we are going to style this however we want it in the CSS. So let's come back to our original design, or to our project file right here, and then I'm going to come back to our code editor. I'm going to come to the style. So what I want to do now is make a comment, and I'm going to make this active link. So I'm calling this active link because we are going to make this the way we want it to look like. So for this, I'm going to set a class called active link, and for this active link, what I want to do is set the position to relative, and then give it a color. So the color, I'm going to set it to our default white that we have on the hover, on this hover right here, nav link hover. So the color is white. So we also want the same thing for our active state. All right, so just like this. Now after that, we set the font weight again to 500. So basically what we are doing is this nav link hover, whatever the value is, when we hover over it, we want it to be default once that particular section is active. So once we are in that section, we want this hover effect to be permanent on that particular link like this. So that is why we are setting this active link to have the same thing as the nav link hover has. Okay, so now we gave this a position relative, all because of this red line border right here. So the reason why we did that is so that we can set the active link and then the before. So the before pseudo element, we're just going to give a content, and the content for now is going to be empty. Then after the empty content, this is where we'll set our position and set it to absolute. And then we'll set our bottom. So for the bottom, I want a negative 0.5 rem, just like so. And then the left is going to be set to 50% because we want the line to be in the dead center. So you can style this however you want. The sky is your limit. Don't try to, except you want to get what I'm doing in details, you can code along like this exactly as I'm doing it. But if you already know your styling, your CSS very well, you could probably do this the way you want it to be. All right, because already I have different let me just show you. So earlier I've already shown you that in this mobile version, as you can see, the line is straight for the active link, but on the desktop version the line is a dead circle. So if I scroll to the next section, as you can see, it is circled right there. So this is how I prefer it to be. And yeah, so now if I come back, so after the left 50%, you're going to see that the line is not going to be in the dead center, because 50% is not going to make it be in the dead center. So but what we can do is add a transform, and then it translate x, and for the x, because we did left, so we're going to add x, because x is for left and right. So for the x, I'm going to set this to negative 50%, and this is going to make our line be in the very dead center of any link that is active. All right, so after that we want to set our width the way we want it. So for this I use 20 pixel width, and then for the height I use the 5 pixel height. And then now we're going to set our color. So for the color, I'm using that same red color, which is CE0F0F. And then the border radius, so I'm going to set that to 50 pixel, just like this. So now if I hit save and I come back right now, this is the finished version. So for the one we are doing right now, as you can see, we still can't see any of the styling we've been doing. And the reason is very simple. None of this link right here have the class of active link on them. So we're going to copy this, and since by default when you come to a website newly, the home section or the hero section is always the first thing that you see. So because of that, we're going to set this by default to active. So right now I'm just going to paste the active link in the class, the home link class right here. So inside the class I just set that to nav link active. As you can see right here, I paste the active link. So now if I save this and I go back, if I should click on our nav open, as you can see we have this right here. So just for you to see that it is working fine, if I come back to our style.css, I could change this color to, let's say, green. Let's do green. And if I save this and come back, as you can see, this is green right here. So this is working fine as expected. All right, so now for us to get the next thing, which is when we click on any of this link, we want all this menu to close automatically. So when we click on the home link or the nutrition link or this breeze link or the contact, we want this whole thing to disappear. So when it will take us to the page that we requested for, or the section requested for, and then the section right here is also going to be active, and this whole thing disappears just as we see right here. So now we are in the nutrition section. If I click on the home section, it brings us to the home section, and then the navigation disappears just like so. If I click on this contact as well, it brings us to the contact, and then the navigation also leaves the page. So that's what we're going to be doing right now for this. And what we want to do now is, first, for me to do that, I will have to set other sections in the CSS as well. So in the HTML rather. So for these other sections, what I can do is come outside of this header. So outside the header, I want to make the main page. So for that, I'm going to be using main and then give it a class of main. So then what I can do is have a section. So if you remember in our reusable CSS class right here, we already have this section, the class of section, and then we give it a padding. So I'm going to be creating a section with a class of section, just like so, and then another class of home, and then an ID of home. So the essence of this ID is so that it rhymes with this home right here. So whatever value you want, wherever you want your link to take you to, you must make sure that the href and the ID of that section matches each other. And then for the href, all you need to do is add this hashtag before the whatever you used for your ID in the section. Okay, so once we get that out of the way, the next thing we want to do is to give a div with a class of container, if I can spell, and then another class of home container. So basically this container is what we have in our layout right here. So this container right here, as you can see, it is there by default. So since we can't use this to style this section, because we're going to be using this container for every section, so since we can use it to style this section, we need another class that will make us be able to style this particular section without affecting any other section. So that is why we have another class of home container right here. All right, so after the home container, we're going to have another class, another div with a class of home data, and this home data is going to house our content. So we need an h3, and the h3 is going to stay responsive, just like so. And after the h3, we need an h1, and h1 is going to say sticky, and then transparent, parent, and then header. So now if I save this and I go back to our page, as you can see, this is what we have. But then we want all this to be on a separate line. So the sticky on a separate line, transparent a separate line, and then the header as well a separate line, just like we have right here, as you can see. So for us to be able to do that, I'm just going to hard code a break to all this. So break like so, it's a self-closing tag, and you can choose not to add this / right here. It's just the old way of adding a break, but I'm already used to it, so I leave it be just like that. Alright, so now we have, oh, I put this in the wrong place. I'm going to cut this out. It has to be just here. So now if I save this and come back, as you can see, everything is on different lines right here. So what we can do is to style this. So if I come to our style.css and then I go all the way up, I can make a comment here and call this home section, just like so. And for this home section, what I can do is target the home data. Oh, sorry. So the home data, which is this one right here, this home data. So I want to basically display flex, and the reason why I'm displaying flex is so that we can set the justify content and align items to the center, so all this text will be in the dead center right here. So that's why we are doing the display flex. So now we're going to set the justify content to center, and the align items will be set to center as well. So now if I save this and then I come like this, as you can see, what is happening here is that let me go to our index. So this is the home data, and this home data has two things inside of it. It has the h3 and the h1. So as you can see, we set the display to flex. So basically it's going to set this h3 and this h1 side by side, which is what it is doing right now. So you can't blame it. This is how this is how flex was wired to work. But what we can do is set a direction for us. So we can say flex direction, and we can set that to column. So with this column, now if I save and go back, as you can see, everything is on their own separate line. It's coming from top to bottom instead of left to right. So now what I can do is make a text align and set it to center. So now everything is in the center like this. So but then they are too far up. So what I want to do is push them down a little bit. So I'm going to make a margin top and give it a 7 rem, just like so. And now this is where they are. Alright, so next let's start our h3. So for the h3, I'm going to make the home data and then select the h3, and I want to give this a font size of 2.8 rem, and then a font weight, and it's going to be 700, and then we'll have a line height. I give that 3.5 rem, and the text transform, we want to set that to transform, set that to uppercase, just like that. I have just been styling. What I've been styling all along is the h1 actually. So let me just change that to h1, because what I've been doing is the h1. So now let me start the h3, home data h3. So for the h3, we're going to have the font weight set to 600, and then we're going to have the margin bottom to 1 rem, just like so, 1 rem, and then the color is going to be our red color, so which is the CE, and that's then the text transform as well. Transform is going to be uppercase, like so. So now if I save this and go back, this is what we get. Alright, so this is looking really good. So next, let's move to the other sections. So for the other sections, I'm going to come to the index, and for this index, just before the closing main tag, after this closing section, I'm going to create another section, and the section is going to have a class of section, and then another class of nutrition, and then an ID of nutrition. So as you can see, we already have our nutrition link set to hashtag nutrition as well to match the ID that we have here. So yeah, so next we're going to make another D with the class of container, and nutrition dot container or nutrition dash container, just like so. So this is what we need here. So what I'm going to do is copy this section and paste it a couple times. So I'm going to paste, and then I'm going to paste again. So for this one, all we can do is change all this. So once I select or highlight this first nutrition right here, if I keep clicking on Control or Command D, it select the next one, and if I do that again, it select the next one underneath it. So I'm going to stop here and then change this to breathe, just like so. Next, I'm going to come down again and repeat the same thing. Highlight this first one, use Control or Command D, 1 and then 2 to select the other two nutritions, and then change this to contact, just like that. Alright, so now I'm going to save and come back, and you see that nothing happens here. So we're going to give let's give this h2 and set the give this a class of section title. So since I'm going to be doing this for everything, contact. All right, since I'm going to be doing this for everything, so I'm just going to click on this right here, and while I'm holding my Alt or Option key on Mac, I'm going to click on this and then click on this as well. So I'm going to bring this down and give an H2, and then this H2 is going to have a class of section title, just like that. If you remember earlier, we have our section title style right here. Let me just show you real quick. So this right here is the section title, as you can see. So the style is already there, so all we need to do is add our names right here. So for the first one is going to be nutrition, the second one is going to be breeds, and then the third one is going to be what's it again, contact. So now if I save and go back to the site, we can see our sections right here, and they already have that padding to the top and the bottom already. All right, so now to make this whole thing span out, we're going to come back to our style.css, and in this style.css, all we need to do is scroll to the top right, or in our CSS reusable classes, we're going to come down here, and right here what we can do is select everything. So from the home, we'll select the home. The home is really not necessary, you don't need to select that, but I'm just going to do that just to be clear. So select the nutrition, select the breeds, and then I'm also going to select the contact. So for all this, the reason why we're selecting all this is just so that we can add a height of 100 view height. And if I hit save and I go back right now, as you can see, this has one full height. This section also has one full height. This section again one full height, and the contact section as well has one full height. So this gives us more room so that when we are using our link, it can take us to the direction. So let me just show you what I mean. If I click on nutrition right now, as you can see, we are on this nutrition part, and if I come down and click on contact, as you can see, we have the contact part. And the reason why we are having those is because we set the ID and then the link, we set the href to the same name, so that's why they work together like so. But as you can see, this active link only works for this home section, it doesn't work for every other section right here. So for us to make this work, we need our JavaScript as well. So now I'm going to come back here, and then I'm going to come to our JavaScript right here. So the first thing I want to do is to set this so that when we click on any of this link, this navigation will close. And in order for me to do that, I'm just going to come back here. In order for me to do that, I'm going to set, first let me comment this out and say let's say remove menu on click for mobile. So just so that we are clear, I'm going to say remove menu on click for mobile, and what I can do is give a const right here, and I'm just going to call this nav link, and for the link I'm going to set the document dot query selector, and then I want to select all the links in this tag. So for that, I'm going to target this. So basically I've selected all the links in the website. So what I can do is create a function and give this function a name of link action. So what do we want the link to do? So inside this function, I'm going to create a const, and the const is going to have a nav menu. It's going to be equals to document. The const is going to be named nav menu rather. It's going to be equals to document dot get element by ID, and we want to grab that main nav again. If you remember our main nav, So after grabbing the main nav, now when we click on the nav menu, any of the nav menu, any of that link, what we want to do is to remove. So we're going to say class list dot remove. So we want to remove that class of show menu. So basically what this is saying is when we click on any of the links, we want to remove the show menu class. So for us to be able to achieve that, we're going to come down here and I'm going to say nav link. So outside the function, I'm going to call nav link dot let's say dot for each, like so. So for each of the link, we want to so for each of the link, we want to say link dot add event listener. So we want to add a click event so that whenever any of the link is being clicked on, we want to add that function. So the link action function. So this function right here, we want to add it whenever we want this function to execute whenever the link, any of the link is being clicked on. So now if I save this and I come back to our site, if I click on the nav open, as you can see, we have our navigation right here. But then if I click on this nutrition, as you can see, that navigation disappears. Likewise, any other link as well. So as soon as I click on any links, it takes me to the page and then the navigation disappears just like that. But we still have one problem, which is whenever we click on any of this link right here, we still don't have this styling on them. The styling is fixed just on the home icon alone, because as you can see, if I inspect this right now and I put this right here, so as you can see, we have the active link right here. So if I should click on this and remove this active link from here and then put it somewhere here on this other section, so if I paste this in right here and click enter, as you can see, this nutrition has it. So that's what we want to do. We are going to use JavaScript to say that whenever we click on any link or whenever we scroll to any section, that active link should move from this home section to that other link right here. So wherever we are active on, if it is the breeds section, this styling should move from this home to breeds, just like that. So for us to achieve that, we're going to come back here and then I'm going to make a comment. So I'm going to call this active section link. So for this section, what I want to do is create a variable. So I'm going to say const because it's not going to change. So I'm going to select the sections and document dot query selector or query selector or, and what do I want to select? I want to select the section, and then what do I need inside the section? I need the ID. So all the IDs in that section is what I'm basically selecting right now. So that is how you select an ID in any, maybe in a div or in a section tag or anything. All right, so what I want to do next is create a function, and this function I'm going to make this I'm just going to call this scroll, let's say scroll active. Let's just leave it as scroll active. So right now I can say const scroll y is equal to window dot page y offset, just like that. And then what I can do is say sections dot for each section, and yeah, I want to open this up, so I'm going to create a variable section height. I'm going to call the section height is equal to section dot offset height, like so. And then I'm going to create another const, and section top is equal to section dot offset top, and then I want to minus 50 from it, just like that. So next, what I can do is say that section ID will be equal to section dot get attributes, the ID attributes, just like that. So after that, we're going to create an if statement. So if scroll y is greater than section top and scroll y is less than or equal to section top, like so, plus section height like so. So document dot query selector, and I'm going to select main nav, the href inside the main nav. So I'm going to say href equals like this, and then plus the section ID, just like that, plus an empty string like so. And then I'm going to say dot class list dot let's add the active link, like so. So I'm going to save this, and then I'm going to come to the else. So I'll say else, open this up, and then I'm going to copy all this, and then change this from add to remove, just like so. Now I'm going to come out like this and say window dot add event listener, and I want to listen for the scroll event, and then I'll call the scroll active function that we just created. So now if I save this and I go back, hopefully this should work. So if I click on home, we are on the home. If I click on nutrition and I check, as you can see, the nutrition is active. So now, as you can see, everything is working fine. So now if I click on this home and then I inspect this, so as you can see right here, the active link is on it. So I'm just going to open all this up, and now if I scroll down this page, watch what happens. So as you can see, the active link leaves this home icon, this home link, and move to the nutrition link right here. So watch what happens again if I move this from nutrition to breeds. As you can see, it moves from the nutrition to breeds right here again. So that is basically the rules we've just set in our JavaScript. Alright guys, so here is everything for now. So the only thing I think is left is for us to be able to, because in our real project we are going to have a lot of content, and just like you see right here, you don't want your logo and your navigation links to be in the way of any content so that anyone can't read it. So that is why we are going to be adding the color right here to set it to white, so that when you scroll, right now it is set to transparent. Even if you have an image, the image is going to show everywhere right here. But when you scroll down a little, as you can see, we have this border right here, and then the background changed from transparent to white, just like that. So now we have this. So for us to be able to do that for our real website right here, because as you can see, it is still transparent all the way up. So in order to do that, I'm going to come back here and I'm going to say, make a comment and say change the background on scroll. So if I comment this out, so all I need to do is create a function and call this function change color, or I can just say change header color, just like so. And now, so I'm going to say const, the nav is going to be document dot get element by id, and I want to select the header like so. So what we can do is say if this dot scroll y is greater than or equal to 200 viewport height, what we want to do is say nav dot class list dot add. We want to add a class, and the name of that class is going to be let's make it scroll header, and then I'll come down here, else we want to nav dot class list dot remove that class of scroll header, just like this. And if I come down, I'm just going to call window dot add event listener. We want to listen for the scroll event, and then we're going to call our function, which is change header color. And now if I hit save and I come back to our website and scroll, well, nothing happens. We don't get that yet because we only added a class of scroll header, but we never styled it. So we're going to come back down. Now let's style the header. So after it's active, so I'm going to add another comment, and for the comment I'll just say let me call this, what did I give the main JS? So I'm just going to copy this and paste it here. Make that a comment as well. So now I can give a box shadow. I'll select the scroll header and give this a box shadow of 0, 1 pixel, 4 pixel, and then we're gonna have an RGB A 0, 0, 0, and then the alpha value is going to be 0.1, just like that. Then we have our background set to whatever color you want, but in my case I'm going to set it to white, just like this. So now if I save this and then I go back, and if I should scroll and I get to 200 viewport height, as you can see, we have this border, this box shadow down here, and then the background is also not transparent but white. So just to see that this works, I'm going to change this color to green, and if I save right now, as you can see, we have a green color right there. Alright, so I think the only thing left for us to do is to figure out a way to make this responsive. So when we get to this height right here, instead of appearing like this, we're going to have a nice design. But for that, before that, let's set some few query selectors. So the first one I want to set is I'm just going to say at media screen and mean width this time around. So the mean width, I want to set the 576 pixel, and for that I'm going to set the section title. So I want to increase the title a little bit, so I'm going to set font size to 2 rem, just like so. And then the home data H3. So for the H3, I want to give that a font size as well of 1.3 rem. And then the home H1, the home data H1, I'm going to set this to font size of 4 rem. And then the line height is going to be 5 rem, just like so. And now if I save this at 576, as you can see, this is what we have, and all this becomes bigger. So the next is going to be the 767, which is where our navigation menu breaks. As you can see, everything is already shattered. Alright, but let me show you this in the tablet version as well. As you can see, it works well in the tablet version, so you can choose to add maybe much more space to the bottom and the top using that padding in our main nav, but I'm just going to leave mine like this for the sake of this tutorial. So I'm going to open this to let me just leave it at 777 is the same. So I'm just going to copy this so I'll be quick. So if I copy all this and then paste it here, open this up, change this to 767. So at this screen size, what I want to do is the body, I'll first take away the margin top from the body because now we have much space. So now I'm going to set the section itself. I'm going to increase the padding to the padding top to be precise. I want to increase that to 7 rem, just like so. Next, the nav itself. So that nav, the height was previously 3 rem, but now we're going to change that to 4 rem or 5 rem depending on what you want. I think I'm just going to leave mine at 5 rem right here. And the nav list. So for the nav list, I'm going to make the display to be flex, and then the align items to be center. If you remember, the nav list in our index is basically this UL right here. So this UL is what we just styled in our right here using the display flex and align items center. Then after that, I'm going to create a nav list. So the nav the nav item, I'm going to set the margin left. I'll set that to 2.5 rem, and then the margin bottom was previously I think 1.5 or something, but we're going to set that to 0 now because we don't want any margin at the bottom anymore. And if I save this and go back, this is what we currently have right now. So next, what I want to do is select the nav link and then the logo itself. So I want to make the font size to be 1 rem, and the color, oh, the color is already dark. Okay, not for the link though. So but the color, I'm going to make that 100% black. And then after that, the nav link hover, the hover. So I want to set the color to our red color, which is the CE hashtag CE070F0F. I don't know why I keep calling 0707. Alright, so the next thing is the active link. So the active link also going to have this color right here. So I'm going to paste that in like so. And then the active link before, well, like I said earlier, this you can actually leave it at this particular string, but I want mine to be just more like a dot, a full stop, a round circle, whatever you want to call it. So for that, I'm going to set the active link and then the before. So for the before, I just want to change the width to 6 pixels. I think from 20 pixel in the mobile version. Now I'm setting it to 6 pixel, and then the height also from 5 pixel to 6 pixel as well, because I want a round figure for both. And then the border radius, I'm going to be setting that to 50%. And now if I save this and go back, as you can see, the line becomes this little red dot right here. So this is what I prefer for the desktop version actually. So what we need to do now, we have these the X for close and this one right here. So we're just going to hide those two. So for that, I'm going to select the nav open and then nav close, and I'm going to make the display to be none. So now this will be pushed to this side. As you can see, everything now works perfectly well. And for the font, for this home section, what I can do, the home data H3, I can just increase the font a little bit to 2 rem. So sorry, this is not why you're here. You're actually here for the navigation, but I just want the page to look at least a little bit better. So that's why I'm doing all this. I don't want to upload a thumbnail that attracts people and then I'm doing something else. So that's why I have to do the exact thing I have on the thumbnail, because my thumbnail is always set before my videos. So I have my thumbnail before my videos. Alright, so 5.5 rem for this right here. And then the line height, I'm going to be setting that to 6 rem. And then the font weight is going to be set to 700, like so. So now we just have a bigger text right here. and everything works the same way, works perfectly well and 100%. As you can see, each section is active. So if I scroll now, as you can see, the transparent header becomes white background. So now if I go to the nutrition is activated. If I go to breed, it's activated, and then contact is also activated. So as you can see, guys, everything works perfectly well here. So, but there's going to be a slight issue if I should get to the desktop version. As you can see, all this content is just fixed on the left hand side, and that is because of our container. So what I can do is I want to see on our so let me just copy this again instead of typing all over. I'm kind of lazy right now, so I'm going to say on the final we have what am I doing, 968. Okay, on our container, let me just show you that real quick. On the container, we have a maximum width of 968 pixels. So we're going to be setting a query, a media query for that 968 pixels, so we can change the margin and margin left and right. So that's why we have a mean width of 968 pixels. So I'm going to target the container. So the container, excuse me please. So I'm going to target the container, and for the container I'm going to set the margin left instead of 1.5 rem. I'm going to set that to auto. Likewise, the margin right, instead of the 1.5 rem, it's going to be auto. And by this, just by doing this, we've managed to align our content to the center. So everything is now working perfectly well. So if I click on nutrition, breeds, contacts, and so on, as you can see, everything works fine, guys. All right, so there you have your navigation. So I talked about the contact earlier, making a button right here rather. So let me just show you how you can do that real quick. I think we still have a little time. I don't want this thing to be too long, but let me just do that. So if I come down to this contact right here, and I can just add another class of btn. If I save that and I come to my style.css, so in this navigation, so the btn, I can, after this nav link style, I can come down here and target the btn, and I can just give this a padding of let's say to the top and bottom 12 pixel, and then to the left and right let's do 25 pixel, like so. And then we can set the color to white, and then the background, we can set the background to okay, you know what, for this mobile version, let's set the color for the mobile version to, let's do the dark color, and then the background, we want to make that white, like so. And then let's probably give this a border radius of, let's say, 30 pixel. So if I save this and I come back to right here, as you can see, you won't see that because what I just did is style the mobile version. So if I come back to the mobile version right here, if I should click on this, as you can see, this is what we have right here. So what you can do is, on the hover, you can, our hover is set to dead to pure white right here. So the hover effect is also active right here. So you can just set that however you want. But for now, I'm just going to skip that because of time. And I think this 25 is too much. I'll set that to 20. Alright, so as you can see, this works just fine. So that is how you can have a button right there. So, and on a large screen size, I can just copy all this come to, let's do 700 right here. So after the nav link, I'll paste that right here, and then I can remove this padding because by default it's going to pick it up, and then I can remove this border radius as well. What I'm concerned about is this. So for this, I'm going to have the red color, the red color 0F CE 0F0F, yeah, and then the color itself is going to be white. So if I save this like this, as you can see, this is what we have right now. So of course you need to change the hover effect as well, because right here the hover color is set to red, and it's going to be the same thing here as well. As you can see, this dot is still here, which is not really nice, so you can choose to remove this dot on the contact section as well. So but this is how you can add a button. One more thing before I leave, before I finish this tutorial, in this mobile version again, 375, in this mobile version, if you don't want your animation to come like this, let me just show you one thing you can do. So if I go to the CSS file right here, and I go to this nav, so this main nav, so instead of top, I want to set this, the top I'm going to leave it at 0. So this, the left to right now, I'm just going to make this, instead of left, I'm going to change this to right and set that to let's do -100%, just like we did the other stuff. So but for this width, I want to set the width to I'm going to do 70% instead of 100%. Don't worry, I'm breaking a few things, I know. You're going to see what I mean. So for the top right here, the top is going to be, let's leave it at 3.5 rem, and then the left and right. So what I can do is, for the right, I don't want anything, so I'm going to leave it at 0. For the bottom, I also don't need anything, but for the left hand side, I can still do 2.5 rem, just like that. And then after this width, I want to set a height, and that height I'm going to make it 100%. So if I save this, and yeah, we won't see anything right now, and that's because we already have 100%, -100% on the right. So but if I still do that, we still won't see anything, because right now we have this with, okay, so what I can do now is, let me leave this back to -100%. We have our width set to 70%, the height is 100%, and next what I can do is, to this top, I can make from top, I can change this to, because we set it the right to -100%, so I'll make this right. So now what you observe now is this. So if I click on this, right now we are getting this whole thing coming from the side right now, instead of coming from top to bottom. So I'm just trying to show you a few other ways you can do this. So this text align center, I'm going to change that to left, or just comment it out. Let me just comment it out, and this is what we get. Then for the padding left, I think I can just make this 3 and make this probably 6, like so. You know, whatever works best for you is what you do. And just like that, we have this set to the left hand side. And take note, this doesn't affect anything on the desktop version, so your desktop version still looks cool, while your mobile version looks like this. So of course you can style this however you want. You can increase the margin in the bottom so that they are much more spacious, they are spaced out much more. Let me just do something like that so you can see what I mean. So if I change it to 3.5 rem, as you can see, we have much room. And even this this red line, you can move that from, you know, how you can make that, go to the active section, the left, so the left, you can just set that back to 0 and comment out this transform property right here. So by doing that, we have this on the left, and this is another cool effect right there. You will agree with me on that. All right, so you can even increase the width from 20 pixel. You can make that or you can even make this width like 50% of whatever of the height of the content. So 50% of this breed, as you can see, this is where, but if I go to the nutrition and I click on, as you can see, this 50% of the nutrition, and the home is 50% of the home. There are a lot of things you can do with this. There are a lot of ways you can style this to how you want. So I'm just trying to show you possible ways you can do this. Alright guys, I'm going to draw the curtain here. I'm going to leave the link to this file in the description below, and just in case you need it. So yeah, I'll see you in the next tutorial. Please, if you like this video, kindly hit that thumbs up button and leave a comment down in the section below. By doing so, YouTube will be able to recommend this tutorial to other people because it is interactive and they find it useful to you because you commented on it and like it. So they'll be able to recommend it to other people who need such content as well. So please, if you really want to help me, you have to do this: like this video, leave a comment in the comment section, and also subscribe to this channel because I leave content like this every week. So subscribe to the channel, and yeah, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year in advance. I love you guys. I'll see you in the next tutorial. Peace.